There are moments in life when you find yourself questioning whether the person in front of you is truly the right one. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. This applies to any deep connection with another human being. Friendships, business partners, mentors, or even those people who seem to have entered your life at just the right moment. But how can you tell if they are truly aligned with you? Carl Jung dedicated a large part of his life to studying the unconscious and how it shapes our relationships. For him, nothing we experience is mere coincidence. The people who enter our lives don't do so randomly. More often than not, they are manifestations of internal processes we have yet to fully understand. Have you ever felt an inexplicable connection with someone? Maybe you can rationalize it, but there's something about their energy, their presence, or their way of being that resonates with you on a nearly magical level. Jung would say that this feeling is a manifestation of synchronicity, a moment where the internal and the external align perfectly. It's as if the universe is sending you a signal that this person has an important role to play in your life. But how do you distinguish between a genuine connection and a fleeting illusion? This is where understanding the unconscious becomes essential. Jung believed that our relationships act as mirrors of our inner world. If you find yourself constantly surrounded by people who challenge you in destructive ways, drain your energy, or make you feel insufficient, it's not just bad luck. It's an invitation from your unconscious to look inward, to ask yourself what part of you is allowing or even attracting these dynamics. When someone is truly right for you, you will know because there won't be a constant struggle between who you are and who you feel you need to be. Truly meaningful relationships do not force you to betray your essence. You won't feel the need to hide parts of yourself, to mold yourself into someone else's expectations, or to force a connection that does not flow naturally. Instead, that person will make you feel seen, understood, and accepted. And not because they idealize you, but because their presence reflects the connection you have with yourself. Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, beyond masks and social expectations. When you are on the path of individuation, you begin to attract people who are aligned with your truth, not because they magically appear in your life, but because now you have the clarity to recognize them and the courage to let go of those who no longer resonate with you. Think about it. How many times have you held on to relationships that deep down you knew weren't good for you? Relationships where conflict was constant, where you felt you had to fight for every small display of affection, where simply being yourself seemed to be a problem. This doesn't mean that the other person is bad or that you are wrong. It simply means there is a misalignment, a disconnect between who you are and what the relationship demands you to be. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to let you know that my book is now available. It's filled with advice and techniques to help you overcome emotional blockages and cultivate self-love. You can find the link in the description and the pinned comment. Now, let's continue. Jung reminds us that the unconscious is always seeking balance. If you spend your life chasing relationships that drain you, at some point, your mind and body will send you signals that something is off. Maybe you start feeling anxious, exhausted, or unmotivated. Perhaps you even experience physical symptoms, insomnia, unexplained aches, or constant fatigue. All of these are ways in which your being is screaming for change. That's why, when someone is truly right for you, you will know. Not because everything will be perfect, not because there will never be disagreements or difficult moments, but because their presence won't make you feel like you are in a constant battle. With them, you will experience something deeper, an ease, a sense of belonging, a connection that doesn't require you to sacrifice who you are. And that is how you know. Something that Jung considered essential for emotional well-being is harmony. But there is something even deeper. Jung believed that true connection with another human being happens when our souls recognize each other. This may sound mystical, but in reality, it makes perfect sense. Throughout our lives, we accumulate experiences, wounds, and lessons. Often, without even realizing it, we seek in others something that helps us heal. If someone enters your life and awakens a sense of growth and expansion within you, if they inspire you to be more of yourself rather than shrink to fit in, that is a sign that something meaningful is happening. However, this does not necessarily mean that person is meant to stay forever. Some connections are meant to accompany us for a while before continuing on their own path. But while they are in our lives, their presence leaves an impact that goes beyond words. On the other hand, if you constantly find yourself in relationships where you feel the need to prove your worth, where the fear of abandonment or rejection dictates your actions, then it is time to ask yourself, what part of me needs to be healed? Are you choosing these relationships out of self-love, or are they rooted in the fear of being alone? Jung believed that loneliness is not something to be feared, but rather a sacred space where we can meet ourselves. When you learn to be at peace with who you are, you stop desperately searching for someone else to fill your voids. And it is at that moment, when you are no longer looking for someone to complete you, that the most authentic relationships begin to appear. The secret is not in finding the right person. The real secret is becoming the most authentic version of yourself. Because when you do that, the right connections will emerge naturally. You won't need to force anything. You won't need to convince anyone that you are worthy of love. You simply are. And that is enough. If you have ever felt that someone entered your life at just the right moment, that their presence brought clarity, peace, or even the necessary challenge to push you toward growth, do not ignore it. Life is full of synchronicities, of signs that guide us if we learn to listen. But the key lies in introspection, in knowing yourself, in understanding your patterns, in recognizing what you are truly looking for in a relationship, and most importantly, in having the courage to let go of what no longer resonates with you. Carl Jung taught us that the reality we experience is a reflection of our internal world. If you want to attract the right person, you must first become the right person for yourself. The relationships we experience in life are not coincidences. Jung believed that everything that happens in our external world is a manifestation of internal processes, of aspects within us that we have yet to explore or understand. If you constantly find yourself in relationships that make you feel anxious, insecure, or empty, it is time to ask yourself, what part of my own psyche is attracting this experience? This is not magic, nor blind fate. It is the reflection of your internal world. If deep down you feel that you are not enough, you are likely to engage with people who reinforce that belief. Not because they are bad people, but because your unconscious mind seeks to confirm what it already believes to be true. The key to breaking this cycle is awareness. When you begin to recognize these patterns and understand that your relationships are mirroring your inner beliefs, you gain the power to change them. You no longer seek love to fill a void, but rather to share the love that already exists within you. And when you operate from that place, the people who enter your life will reflect that same energy back to you. So, ask yourself, am I choosing love from a place of wholeness or from a place of fear? Because the answer to that question will determine the quality of every connection you experience from this moment on. Jung explained this through the concept of projection. When we are not aware of certain aspects of our personality, we project them onto others, seeing in them what is actually a part of us. Perhaps you have found yourself in a relationship where you feel unappreciated, where the other person seems to take you for granted, demands too much from you, or simply does not truly see you. It is frustrating, even painful. But if you take a step back and observe with honesty, you might ask yourself, am I seeing in this person the reflection of something within me? Deep down, is it me who does not value myself enough? The unconscious acts in mysterious ways, but it always has a purpose: to make you aware of what you need to integrate. If you have gone through relationships where you have felt abandoned, where you had to fight for attention or love, it is possible that there is a part of you that fears rejection. Maybe at some point, you learned that affection must be earned and not simply received naturally. When a person is truly meant for you, you will know because there will not be a constant struggle to prove your worth. You will not feel the need to prove your love, loyalty, or importance. The connection will flow effortlessly, without the silent competition for recognition or affection. It will be a genuine exchange where both of you see, accept, and support each other's growth. But to get there, you must first observe your own patterns. What kind of relationships have you attracted over time? Do patterns repeat themselves? Do experiences seem to follow the same cycle? If so, it is not because you are doomed to repeat the past, but because your unconscious is trying to show you something you need to understand. Jung spoke about the importance of making the unconscious conscious, because only then will it stop controlling your life. Until you do, you will keep calling it fate. You will keep feeling trapped in situations that seem inevitable, without realizing that you actually have the power to choose something different. Imagine you are standing in front of two doors. One of them leads to the path you have always taken, the familiar one, the one that has led you to the relationships and experiences you have had so far. The other door is unknown. It fills you with uncertainty, but also with possibilities. Most people choose the first door because even if it brings pain, it is predictable. The fear of change, of the unknown, of what could happen if you choose differently, is one of the greatest limitations of human beings. But if you truly want to attract a connection that brings you peace, you must dare to walk through the second door. You cannot keep waiting for things to change while remaining the same. You cannot desire a relationship based on love if there are still parts of you that reject that love. Jung would say that before finding the right person, you must become the person who will attract that connection. And that requires inner work, the courage to face the shadows that have led you to repeat the same stories over and over again. Take a moment, pause, and think about all the relationships that have left a mark on you. Think about the patterns that have repeated, the emotions you have felt. What message lies behind all of this? What part of you is still trying to heal through your connections with others? Because here is the key. No one can heal you. No one can fill you. No one can give you what you have not given to yourself. When the right person comes, you will know, because their presence will not bring chaos or unnecessary suffering. It will be a connection that invites you to grow without destroying you in the process. It will be someone who respects your essence, who motivates you to expand rather than shrink. But to recognize that person when they arrive, you must first make sure you are not still choosing from fear, lack, or the need for external validation. Jung taught us that the journey toward true love does not begin outside of us, it begins within. The quality of our relationships is a direct reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. When we truly know and accept ourselves, the right connections appear effortlessly, without the need to force them. So, if you've ever asked yourself, how do I know if someone is the right one? Start by asking yourself an even more important question. Am I the right one for myself? Because only from that place of authenticity and inner clarity can you recognize in another what is truly aligned with you. There is something many people misunderstand about relationships. They are not a means to fill emotional voids. They are a mirror reflecting what we carry within. Carl Jung once said that everything we experience externally originates in our internal world. So, if you want to know whether someone is the right person for you, the first question you must ask yourself is, what am I truly looking for? Perhaps you've had the experience of meeting someone at the exact right moment, someone who seemed to have all the answers, someone whose mere presence brought you peace. But as time passed, the dynamic began to change. You started noticing attitudes that didn't quite align with the image you had formed in your mind. A subtle discomfort emerged, a feeling that something wasn't right, but you tried to ignore it. You didn't want to lose the connection. At that point, your intuition was already speaking to you. But the question is, were you listening? Jung emphasized the power of intuition as a guiding force from the unconscious. The rational mind can deceive you. It can justify the unjustifiable, find reasons to hold on to something that is not good for you. But your intuition is that inner voice that doesn't require logic to know the truth. It never lies. If you feel discomfort, if there are subtle signs telling you that something doesn't fit, pay attention. Do not ignore those sensations just because you wish reality were different. When someone is truly right for you, their presence does not create a constant internal struggle. You don't feel like you have to change who you are to be accepted, nor do you feel like you're walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. One of the greatest indicators that someone is aligned with you is a sense of peace. And here's where many people get confused. They believe that an intense relationship, full of highs and lows, extreme emotions, and dramatic moments, is the ultimate proof of love. But intensity is not the same as genuine connection. True connection manifests as peace, mutual respect, and a sense of freedom within the relationship. If you look back on your life, you'll likely remember times when you ignored your intuition. There were people who, from the very beginning, showed clear signs that they were not what you truly needed. And yet, you held on. Why? Because the fear of being alone, the longing to be loved, and the need to feel like you belong can cloud your perception. Jung would say that this is the unconscious repeating patterns, attempting to heal past wounds through new relationships. Have you ever wondered why certain people enter your life at precisely the moment you are going through a significant change? It's not a coincidence. Jung spoke of synchronicity, how the universe seems to align to bring us what we need at every moment. But synchronicity does not always bring us what we want. It brings us what we need in order to evolve. Sometimes the people who enter our lives are not the one, in the romantic sense, but rather a mirror, showing us what we have yet to heal within ourselves. That is why, before asking if someone is right for you, you must ask, what is this person reflecting back to me? If their presence in your life pushes you to grow, to face your fears, to become more authentic, without feeling like you have to betray yourself, then that connection has a positive purpose. But if, on the other hand, you feel drained, constantly in conflict with yourself, filled with doubt, and in a state of emotional anxiety, that is a clear sign that this person is not aligned with your true essence. Jung teaches us that life presents us with experiences designed for our evolution, but it is up to us to recognize the signs and make decisions from a place of awareness, not fear. If you feel like you have to chase someone, like you have to constantly put in all the effort to make the relationship work, like you're walking in circles and getting nowhere, then it's time to ask yourself, am I choosing this connection out of love or out of need? True love does not require constant trials or sacrifices that make you lose yourself. A person who is truly aligned with you will never make you question your worth or put you in a position where you have to choose between being yourself and being loved. Authentic love is not a battle, nor is it an impossible puzzle to solve. It is not a game of strategies where you must calculate every move to avoid losing. Authentic love simply is. It is free. It is clear. It is sincere. If you've ever felt that peace with someone, that feeling that you can be completely yourself, without fear, without worrying that the relationship will demand you to abandon your dreams, your values, or your essence, then you have experienced what Jung would describe as a connection aligned with your deepest self. It is not dependency. It is not necessity. It is not about filling an internal void. It is simply sharing the journey with someone who resonates with the energy of who you truly are. But to reach that point, you must ask yourself an important question. Am I willing to let go of what is not meant for me? Because here's the issue. Many people say they want to find the right person, yet they are unwilling to let go of those who clearly are not. They cling, they justify, they convince themselves that with time, things will change, that the other person just needs to understand them better, that everything will improve. And in that process, they lose years of their lives holding on to something that does not allow them to grow. Jung would remind us that nothing can grow in barren soil. If you continue to nourish relationships that only bring you pain, all you are doing is perpetuating the cycle. But the moment you choose yourself, when you decide to let go of what does not allow you to be authentic, when you take the risk of being alone rather than settling for less than you deserve, something incredible happens. The right people start to appear in your life. And it's not magic. It's not coincidence. It is simply that now you are vibrating at a different frequency, one that attracts those who are truly aligned with you. If, at this moment, you are questioning whether someone in your life is the right person, pause for a moment and listen to yourself. Do not think about the fear of losing them. Do not think about the fear of being alone. Do not think about the idea of what could have been. Simply feel. Does this person bring you peace? Do you feel free in their presence? Do they inspire you to grow? Or on the contrary, do you feel like you constantly have to put in effort just to make the relationship work? Love is not a battlefield. It should not feel like a war where every day is another struggle to be seen, to be loved, to be valued. When someone is truly meant for you, you will know. Not because your mind will analyze it and approve, but because your soul will feel it. It will be something that needs no explanation, something that simply is. And if, at this moment, you feel like that person has not yet arrived in your life, do not despair. Do not search outside for what you have yet to find within yourself. Because the moment you truly choose yourself, when you value yourself without needing someone else to validate you, when you stop looking outward for what only you can find inside, then, and only then, will true love appear naturally. Jung taught us that the answers to our deepest questions are not found in the external world, but in the journey inward. And when you decide to embark on that journey, when you dare to face yourself, everything in your life begins to align. And when the right person arrives, you will know. Not because they check off a list of requirements, not because your mind will analyze and approve them, but because your being will feel it deeply, without a single doubt. When you meet the right person, it will not be a moment of uncontrollable euphoria or overwhelming obsession. It will be calm. It will be a silent certainty that settles in your heart, without the need for explanations. You will not feel indebted. You will not feel insecure. You will not feel like you have to perform emotional acrobatics to keep the connection alive. It will simply flow. And most importantly, you will feel more like yourself than ever before. Carl Jung taught us that true love is not about dependency or possession. It is about connection, mutual growth, and respect for each other's individuality. The right person will never ask you to sacrifice your dreams or change your essence just to fit into their world. Instead, they will uplift you, challenge you in a healthy way, and walk beside you without the fear of abandonment looming over every conversation. In a truly meaningful relationship, there are no power games, no constant battles for attention or validation. Instead, there is presence, real, unwavering presence. There is trust, a deep sense of belonging, and an unspoken understanding that you are valued just as you are. But here's something crucial to remember. The right person can only appear in your life when you have done the inner work to recognize them. If you remain trapped in toxic cycles, if you fear being alone, if you seek love from a place of emotional emptiness, chances are you will continue to attract relationships that reinforce those fears. Because life does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are capable of holding emotionally. The most profound truth about love is this: the healthier your relationship with yourself, the clearer it becomes who is right for you. When you stop looking for someone to complete you and instead focus on becoming whole within yourself, you attract relationships that are based on true connection rather than need. So, the next time you wonder if someone is the right one for you, pause, take a step back, and first ask yourself, am I being the right one for myself? Because when you are, the right person will not need to be searched for. They will recognize you just as easily as you recognize them. So, if right now you feel like you haven't yet found that person, don't see it as a problem. See it as an opportunity to strengthen the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. This is your chance to become the most authentic version of who you are, to release everything that no longer resonates with you, and to open yourself up to what you truly deserve. And when that person finally arrives, you will know. There will be no constant anxiety, no lingering doubts. You won't feel the need to force anything. The connection will feel natural, effortless, like coming home. In the midst of all the chaos in the world, you will have found a space where you can simply be. And that is love in its purest form. If this message resonates with you, if at any point these words have described your own story, I invite you to share your experience in the comments. Have you found that person, or are you still on the journey of discovering yourself? Your words might be the light someone else needs to read today. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, send them this video. Help me reach more people who need to understand that true love is not suffering, that healthy relationships do not require impossible sacrifices, and that the most important connection we can nurture is the one we have with ourselves. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos. Here, we dive deep into the human mind, the power of the unconscious, and the way our relationships reflect our personal growth. And if you'd like me to talk about a specific topic in the future, let me know in the comments. Your voice is an essential part of this community. Thank you for being here, for sharing this journey of self-discovery, and for being part of this space where growth, introspection, and personal evolution take center stage. Remember, when the right person comes along, you will know. But before you find them, make sure you have already found yourself. See you in the next video. Your entire life, you were taught to believe that your darker behaviors were flaws, that every mistake, every impulse, every reaction that didn't fit the expectations of others was a sign that something was wrong with you. But what people never understood is that those same behaviors that make you feel guilty are actually the clearest signs that your soul is not ordinary. Carl Jung often said that the very thing that embarrasses you the most is what God is trying to reveal to you, because the places where you feel the most shame are usually the gateways to your deepest transformation. So before you blame yourself again, you need to understand something essential. There are certain behaviors that look negative on the surface, but only appear in souls that are being called from within. And today, you're going to uncover 5 of those behaviors, the ones that seem wrong, out of place, or unacceptable, but are actually direct messages from God. And if you recognize yourself in even one of them, it's because this message is speaking directly to you. The first one is your spiritual impatience. There are moments when you simply cannot wait. Something burns in your chest, your mind speeds up, and there's a restless energy pushing you forward, urging you to move, change, shift, or take a step, even when you don't fully understand what that step is supposed to be. You can't tolerate slowness. You can't stand when things get stagnant. You feel suffocated when you stay in places where you no longer grow. And of course, people judge you for that. They call you impulsive. They say you don't know how to stay still, that you lack calm, that you rush everything. But what they don't understand is that your impatience is not a psychological flaw. It is a spiritual signal. That sensation shaking you from the inside doesn't come from stubbornness. It comes from the soul. It's as if something within you knows you were made for more, as if an invisible force were pushing you toward a destiny you cannot see yet, but can already feel. That's why superficial things irritate you. That's why empty conversations drain you. That's why being surrounded by people who settle for the bare minimum feels unbearable. It's not arrogance. It's intuition. It's your spirit whispering to you, this is not the place. This is not where you grow. This is not where you belong. And here is the part almost no one dares to say out loud. When God wants to awaken a chosen soul, He doesn't give it peace. He gives it movement. He removes comfort. He disturbs its routines. He shakes its life again and again until the soul finally understands that it wasn't born to remain asleep. This is why, even when you try to calm yourself, you can't. Even when you try to convince yourself that you're fine where you are, something inside you begins to stir again, pushing, knocking, insisting. That impatience is the spirit pushing open a door you're too afraid to face. It's the evidence that there is a path you still haven't taken, a purpose that's calling you, a bigger version of yourself trying to emerge. It is the inner movement that appears only in souls that are not meant for mediocrity. The discomfort you feel is not punishment. It is direction. It is guidance. It is preparation. And the very fact that you feel it so intensely means that you are being called to rise, to evolve, to step into something greater than anything you've known so far. That restlessness is sacred. It is the echo of the life you're meant to live, insisting that you stop pretending you belong where you already outgrew your own skin. Behavior number 2 emerges when you pull away without offering any explanation. There are days when you simply vanish from the world without warning, when you don't answer messages, you don't feel like going out, you don't want to talk to anyone, and you lock yourself inside a silence that only you can understand. And even if, from the outside, it looks like something negative, like a cold attitude, a strange habit, or a sign of emotional detachment, in reality, it is a spiritual reaction that very few people are capable of recognizing. You distance yourself because even if you can't put it into words, your soul begins to feel saturated by things you once tolerated without effort. Empty conversations that drain your energy, dense environments that feel heavy on your chest, people who demand more than you can give, expectations that no longer represent the person you are becoming. It might seem as if your body disconnects, but what is really stepping away is your spirit from everything that is no longer aligned with its path. And although many judge you, thinking you're exaggerating, playing the victim, or trying to isolate yourself on purpose, what is truly happening inside you is far more delicate. Your sensitivity activates, alerting you that there is an emotional overload building inside you, one that you must release before it consumes your peace. You step back because you need to return to yourself, because your energy collapses when you force yourself to remain in places where you no longer belong. Your soul becomes exhausted when you stay surrounded by people who cannot hold your essence. And yes, others may misunderstand it, twist it, or label you incorrectly, but none of that changes the deeper truth. Every time you withdraw, you are answering a divine appointment with yourself. You are not running from the world. You are fleeing from everything that tries to confuse your spirit, drown your intuition, or silence the quiet voice within you that keeps trying to guide your steps. You pull away because you need to remember who you are when no one is watching, because in the stillness, your mind begins to clear, your intuition rises, and your spirit finds its place again. God does not speak to you in the noise, the chaos, or the arguments. God speaks in whispers. And to hear those whispers, you need space, you need emptiness, you need solitude, sacred solitude that restores your inner balance. That is why, when you suddenly distance yourself, it is not rejection, it is protection. It is not indifference, it is sensitivity. You were not created to remain in places where your soul feels suffocated. You cannot keep forcing yourself to fit in when your spirit already knows that place is not for you. You cannot keep giving energy when nothing around you replenishes the effort. And even if others never understand your need to disappear from time to time, you know what happens when you return. You come back different, clearer, more stable, more connected to your purpose. Every moment of withdrawal works as an internal restoration, a spiritual restart, a reminder that your peace is more valuable than any social expectation. Your need to step away is not a flaw. It is a mark of transformation. It is the way your soul cleans itself, protects itself, and prepares you for the next chapter of your journey. No ordinary heart feels this need. Only chosen souls require this silence to hear what comes next. Then comes behavior number 3. You explode before the right time. There are moments when your emotions spill over without meaning to, not because you are a bad person, nor because you have a terrible temper, but because you have been carrying feelings inside you for far too long, feelings no one sees, emotions no one notices, weights no one imagines. Sometimes you say things that later weigh heavily on your conscience. Sometimes you react more intensely than you intended. Sometimes anger, frustration, or inner pain break out when too much has accumulated. And of course, people around you interpret this as a negative behavior. They say you lack patience, that you're too intense, that you dramatize everything. But what they fail to understand is that you don't explode out of rage. You explode out of saturation. You were not born to swallow your emotions. You were not born to pretend nothing is happening. You were not born to endure silences that slowly kill you inside. Your soul is too sensitive to hide what it feels, too honest to fake calmness when something inside you is breaking. When you explode before time, you are not showing a flaw. You are showing a boundary that can no longer remain invisible. Very few know that chosen souls feel with a different kind of intensity. You do not process emotions like others do. You absorb everything faster, deeper, stronger. Injustice wounds you more. Falsehood weighs on you more. Anything misaligned with your inner truth affects you on a level most people cannot understand. And when you try to hold all of that inside, your body begins to speak for you. That emotional outburst you're ashamed of is not immaturity. It's your spirit warning you that you're carrying too much. God did not give you a cold heart or an indifferent spirit. You were given a soul that feels, that perceives, that detects every detail others overlook. That is why you explode when you can no longer handle the weight of other people's energy. That is why you break when you carry guilt that does not belong to you. That is why you collapse when the world asks you for more than you have left to offer. And even though it hurts, even if you feel guilty, even if you hate that part of you, the truth is that this eruption is a sign of something sacred. It means your soul refuses to keep betraying itself. It means your spirit cannot tolerate environments that break your energy. It means your emotions are trying to guide you out of places that silently harm you. That explosion is not a loss of control. It is a release from the control others had over you. You are letting go of what you can no longer carry. You are saying enough without even realizing you're saying it. You burst ahead of time because your soul detects danger before your mind does. It recognizes lies before words are spoken. It senses injustice before the facts appear. It feels the drain before exhaustion hits. And even if the world sees it as bad behavior, you know the truth. Every emotional eruption brings you closer to your authentic self. Each one shows that you are no longer willing to betray your inner truth. Each one reveals that something inside you is awakening, even if that awakening hurts. Chosen souls cannot bear burdens that do not belong to them. They break in order to begin their rebirth. Behavior number 4. You struggle to fit in with people. Since you were very young, you've carried a quiet feeling that you don't quite belong anywhere. It doesn't matter if you are at a gathering, at a party, at work, or even surrounded by people who genuinely care about you. There's always this subtle distance inside you, a sense that you're present, but something in you isn't fully there. And many times you convince yourself that this is your greatest flaw, that something in you must be broken, or that you simply never learned how to socialize correctly. But what no one ever told you is that this difficulty in fitting in does not come from a defect. It comes from a higher state of awareness. You don't fit in because your soul can no longer tolerate empty conversations, environments built on appearances, or the heavy energy of people who move through life on autopilot. That discomfort you feel is not shyness, and it is not strangeness. It is spiritual sensitivity. You see the truth behind people's masks. You can detect falseness in seconds. You notice hidden intentions long before anyone else becomes aware of them. And when your inner self perceives these things, your body contracts, your energy withdraws, and your spirit quietly asks for distance. That is why others think you are quiet, reserved, or difficult to read. But you know that none of those labels truly describe you. You simply cannot force yourself to vibrate in places where your soul finds no meaning. You were not designed to blend in. You were designed to awaken. That recurring feeling of, "I don't belong here," appears every time your inner being recognizes that the space you are in does not nourish your purpose. And even if it hurts, even if it makes you feel alone, even if you sometimes ask yourself what you're doing wrong, the truth is far more powerful than you realize. Your soul doesn't fit in because it is being prepared for something different. What feels normal to most people feels uncomfortable to you. What others call fun feels empty to you. What others tolerate slowly drains you emotionally. You're not difficult. You are aware. You're not strange. You are awake. You're not antisocial. You're selective with your energy because you've learned that not every environment deserves your presence. And even if others don't understand it, you can feel that forcing yourself to fit in would be an act of betrayal, a silencing of the parts of you that have been trying to emerge for years. Souls that are chosen don't come into the world to blend in. They come to illuminate. That is why they don't fit, why they feel different, why they appear disconnected from what everyone else calls normality. You are not alone. You are being separated, shaped, refined. What you interpret as a flaw is actually the inner compass guiding you toward your true people, your true purpose, and the life that genuinely belongs to you. Behavior number 5. You criticize yourself too much. Almost no one knows it, but you are your own harshest judge. No matter how much you advance, improve, heal, or accomplish, you always feel that you could have done more, that you could have done it better. You analyze yourself. You question yourself. You correct yourself. You question yourself again. And you end up exhausted by your own thoughts. Sometimes you punish yourself for mistakes that others didn't even notice. Sometimes you stay replaying a sentence you said, a gesture you made, a decision you took, as if you were obligated to inspect every detail of your life under a harsh, uncomfortable light that you yourself are holding. And from the outside, that looks like a destructive, exhausting, negative behavioral pattern. But the truth is very different. That excessive self-criticism does not exist because you lack self-worth. It exists because your soul knows exactly how far you can go. You don't demand more of yourself out of ego. You demand more because something deep inside you knows that your life carries weight, that your decisions matter, that your path is not just any path. A part of you senses that something great is waiting for you, and that is why you do not allow yourself mediocrity. That is why it hurts when you fail yourself. That is why it is uncomfortable when you settle for less. What no one understands is that your self-criticism does not come from a feeling of inferiority. It comes from a feeling of purpose. You don't judge yourself because you hate yourself. You judge yourself because you intuit that you are meant for more. And that intuition, even when it overwhelms you, is one of the clearest signs that you were set apart for a different path. People without purpose live calmly. They live without questioning themselves. They live without looking inward. But you can't. You analyze because you perceive. You correct yourself because you feel. You observe yourself because you are awakening. It is not punishment. It is awareness. It is not a flaw. It is sensitivity. It is not insecurity. It is expansion. Of course, sometimes you go too far. Sometimes you push yourself to the point of breaking. Sometimes you forget that you are learning, that you are growing, that you are evolving one step at a time. But even that intensity is a sign. Your soul wants to grow faster than your external life can keep up with. And that is why every mistake feels so painful. Chosen souls have something in common. They cannot live asleep. They cannot accept just any version of themselves. They cannot settle for the first answer they find. And you are like that. You question everything. You review everything. You examine everything. Not because you want to punish yourself, but because you want to evolve. Your extreme self-criticism is not a bad trait. It is an indicator of awakened consciousness. It is proof that your spirit no longer wants you to repeat the same old patterns, that it no longer wants you to live on autopilot, that it no longer wants you to settle for what does not represent you. Your inner demand is the clearest sign that God is shaping your character so you can sustain the life that is coming. If you made it this far, then on some level you already know the truth. There is nothing wrong with you. Those behaviors you always assumed were flaws. Those moments when you felt broken, strange, or out of place. None of them were signs of weakness. They were signs of purpose. Every emotional outburst you thought you had to apologize for, every quiet retreat where you disappeared into yourself, every moment you felt unable to fit into the world around you, every doubt that consumed you late at night, and every impossible standard you demanded of yourself were all part of the same inner calling that has been guiding you long before you understood it. Life doesn't reveal its messages through perfection. It reveals them through the things that hurt, through the things that disturb you, through the parts of yourself you spent years trying to hide. The moments you believed were evidence of your brokenness were actually invitations, subtle signals pointing towards something deeper within you. And when you look back, you'll realize that each uncomfortable moment was shaping a strength you didn't have the language to describe yet. If something in this message resonated with you, if it gave you clarity, if you felt that sudden vibration in your chest that rises when a truth finally finds you, then I invite you to stay. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and leave a like, not out of routine, but because this space was created for souls like yours, people who are learning to recognize the meaning behind their own inner storms. And to seal this message, I want to ask you for something simple but powerful. Leave a phrase in the comments, a phrase that will act like a spiritual declaration, a reminder of who you truly are. Write it, declare it, let your own words echo back into your life. I am not a flaw, I am a sign. When you write it, you begin to acknowledge it. When you acknowledge it, you begin to believe it. And when you believe it, something within you begins to awaken. You are staring at this screen because something within you knows you are failing. It isn't your fault, yet it is your responsibility. There is a war unfolding inside you right now, and you have not even realized it. 3 silent battles are determining whether you will truly live or simply exist until you decay. Most people lose all 3 before they turn 30, and the worst part is that they never knew they were fighting. So listen carefully, because what you are about to uncover here was never taught in school, never explained by your parents, and is likely the reason you remain trapped in the same place you were 5 years ago. The first battle is against the voice in your mind. That voice tells you that tomorrow will be different, that this time you will finally act, that you only need a little more time. A lie. That voice is your most lethal enemy, and you feed it every day with excuses wrapped in delicate layers of hope. It has convinced you that planning equals doing, that thinking about changing is enough. It is not. As you read this, that voice is already searching for a way to weaken what you are learning. It will whisper that this is interesting, that you will apply it later, that you must finish other things first. It is a trap. Carl Jung described this dynamic with brutal clarity. The psyche repeats what remains unconscious and then calls it fate. You are living exactly that. You have spent years stumbling over the same inner narrative, still believing the problem lies outside. But here is what you do not want to hear. That voice is not yours. It is a collage of inherited fears, absorbed opinions, and forgotten wounds that settled in the shadows of your mind. It speaks with your tone, uses your words, but it does not represent you. It is the echo of everyone who once said you were not capable, of every failure you turned into identity, of every moment you chose comfort over truth. And the worst part is that you trusted more than you trust your own deeper self. When you have an idea, the voice arises first. When you want to risk something, it restrains you. When you attempt to grow, it reminds you why you shouldn't. It is your most loyal guardian and your most effective executioner. The paradox is cruel. The protection it offers is the same prison it constructs. Think about the last time you wanted to do something different. Change your job, begin a project, end a toxic relationship, anything. What happened? That voice handed you reasons to remain still. It told you it was dangerous, that it was not the right moment, that perhaps later would be better, and you obeyed. You always obey. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we become what we repeatedly do. So what does that make you? A servant to a voice that is not even real. The solution is not to silence it because you cannot. The solution is to recognize it, to see it for what it truly is: noise. When it appears, thank it for its opinion and move anyway. Act despite it. That is the first battle. You do not win by eliminating the voice. You win by denying it control. Every time you do something it tells you not to do, you reclaim territory. Every time you move with fear, instead of waiting for fear to disappear, you advance. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in the presence of it. And here is the secret no one explains. The voice weakens with each victory, but it never vanishes. Learn to live with it, while knowing it does not command you. The second battle is the one you fight against, time itself. You believe you have plenty, yet half of it has already slipped through your fingers. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. The average human lives as if they were immortal, until one day the truth breaks through. They are not. And by the time that truth hits, it's too late to reclaim what has been wasted. Carl Jung understood this deeply. It isn't that we possess too little time, it's that we squander enormous amounts of it, and you've lost more than you dare to admit. How many hours have you handed to things that don't matter? How many days have you sacrificed on the altar of distraction? How many years have drifted away while you waited for the perfect moment that never arrives? Time is not a renewable resource. Every second that slips away is a second that will never return. And yet you treat it as though it were infinite. Here lies the truth that paralyzes you. You don't know how much time you have. You might have 50 years ahead of you, or 50 days. You don't know. And that uncertainty should terrify you enough to move now. But instead, you turn it into an excuse to postpone what matters. You assume that because you don't know when your clock will stop, you can afford another day of mediocrity. Wrong. Death does not give warnings, and when it comes, it won't care about the plans you made. History's greatest figures understood this. They lived with urgency, with the awareness that every day could be their last. You live as though you've been granted an extension, and that illusion keeps you stuck in the same place. But the battle against time is not only about death, it's about the life you waste while waiting. Every day you fail to act is a day you gift to mediocrity. Every hour spent on irrelevancies is an hour you'll never use to build what truly matters. And the worst part is that this isn't a problem of lacking time, but of lacking priorities. You have time for social media, time for shows, time to escape yourself, but not time for what you genuinely want. The truth is that you have time. You simply lack discipline. Time is democratic. We all receive the same 24 hours. The difference between those who rise and those who fall isn't the time allotted, but the way they use it. Here comes the brutal secret. Time accelerates with age. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and suddenly 10 years have vanished, leaving you wondering where they went. Do you know why this happens? Because you stop living new experiences. Your mind erases routine. When every day looks the same, your brain compresses the memory because there's nothing meaningful to store. That's why childhood summers felt endless, and why last year felt like 2 short weeks. It's not that time moves faster, it's that you stopped living. The solution is simple, yet terrifying. Break routine, do what scares you, take risks, live experiences your mind cannot ignore. That is the only way to win the battle against time. You cannot stop it, but you can fill it so fully that when you look back, it was worth living. The third battle, and the most brutal of all, is the battle against yourself. Not against the voice in your head, not against the passing of time, but against the version of you that you refuse to release. That comfortable, predictable, mediocre version, built from excuses and avoidance. The version that clings to the certainty of misery rather than risk the uncertainty of genuine growth. Here is the painful truth. You are your own worst enemy. It isn't the system. It isn't society. It isn't your circumstances. It's you. You are the one who chooses to stay where you are. The one who chooses comfort. The one who chooses not to risk anything. And you choose it because change always demands a symbolic death. Becoming someone better requires letting the old identity die, and that idea terrifies you to the core. Human beings carry a natural resistance to transformation. We prefer familiar suffering over the possibility of something better. That is why people stay in jobs they despise, in relationships that drain their spirit, in lives that feel borrowed or forced. What is known, even if painful, feels safe. What is unknown, even if filled with promise, feels dangerous. Carl Jung expressed this with brilliant clarity. People will do absolutely anything, no matter how irrational, to avoid confronting their own soul. And that is exactly what you've been doing. You keep avoiding your own inner confrontation, because on some level, you know that if you truly look at yourself, you won't like the truth staring back. But here is the twist. You cannot win this battle by running from it. You must face yourself, examine your flaws without mercy, acknowledge every place where you have been failing, and decide that today, not tomorrow, is the final day of that version of you. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow is the favorite word of those who lose themselves in delay. Those who rise, those who evolve, act today. Even when they are unprepared, even when fear is loud, even when they have no idea how to proceed, they leap into the unknown, trusting they will build their wings along the way. You must do the same. Stop waiting to feel ready. You never will. Stop waiting until everything is perfect. It never will be. Begin now with what you have, exactly where you are. The battle against yourself is not fought in one dramatic moment. It is fought in 1,000 small decisions each day. Every moment you choose what is difficult over what is easy, you win a battle. Every time you take action instead of postponing it, you gain another victory. Every time you confront your fear instead of running from it, you strengthen the emerging self you are trying to become. But it works in the opposite direction as well. Every time you give in, every time you choose comfort, every time you lie to yourself, you lose ground in that inner war. And the truth is that these small battles accumulate. The sum of 1,000 small defeats becomes a wasted life. The sum of 1,000 small victories becomes a life of depth and meaning. The difference is not found in heroic gestures. It is found in the invisible decisions you make when no one is watching. Epictetus put it plainly. People are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the judgments they place upon those events. So the real question is this: what is your judgment about yourself? Do you see yourself as someone capable or as someone limited? Because that inner perception silently dictates every action you take. If you see yourself as someone who cannot, you will behave accordingly. If you see yourself as someone who can, you will also behave accordingly. Your identity shapes your destiny. So the question is, who are you? Not who you were, not who you were told to be, but who you choose to become now. Carl Jung taught that the self is not a fixed identity, but an unfolding reality that reshapes itself through consciousness. You can redefine yourself at any moment. The past does not define you. Your present actions do. And here is the truth almost no one tells you. These 3 battles are not fought once. They are fought every day, every morning, every decision, every moment. There is no point where you win them forever. Those who triumph are not the ones who succeeded once, but the ones who continue overcoming themselves daily. Consistency is what separates those who grow from those who merely tried, and consistency is not glamorous, exciting, or comfortable. It is often brutal. It is standing up when you feel empty. It is doing what you said you would do, even when no one is watching. It is moving forward when everything within you begs to stop. That is the real battle. It is not against external enemies. It is against the part of you that wants to surrender each time life becomes difficult. And here comes the part that hurts the most. Most people lose these battles because they do not even know they are fighting them. They live on autopilot, reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of living. They wake up, do the minimum, stay distracted, and go back to sleep. They repeat that for decades, and then wonder why their lives feel meaningless. The answer is simple. They never fought. They never confronted the inner voice, never claimed authority over their time, never released the mediocre version of themselves. They surrendered before beginning, and now they live carrying the weight of regret. Do not become one of them. The life you want exists on the other side of these three battles. There is no shortcut, no trick, no magical formula. You have to fight. You have to face the voice that restrains you, command the time that slips away, and let go of the version of yourself that no longer serves your path. Those are the rules. They are not negotiable. And if you choose not to fight, that is also a choice. It is the choice to settle, to accept mediocrity, to live a life that was never truly yours. So decide now. Are you going to fight, or will you surrender? Because time has already started running. The old voice is whispering, and the outdated version of you is begging you to stay where you are. What will you do? Here is the truth few dare to speak. There is no second chance. This life is the only one you have, and every day you refuse to fight is a day you offer to oblivion. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius woke up reminding himself that the day could be his last, and that awareness made him act with purpose. You wake up and check notifications from people who do not matter. That is the difference. They lived with urgency. You live on pause. They understood that death is the price of admission. You pretend you have all the time in the world. The battle against the inner voice, against time, and against yourself is not something you can delegate. No one can fight it for you. Not your family, not your friends, not some cheap self-help book that promises change in a few weeks. This demands blood, demands sacrifice, demands that you stare into the mirror and admit that you have been failing. And that hurts. It hurts more than any physical blow, because it strikes the ego, the image you carefully built about who you believe you are. But that pain is necessary. Without that pain, there is no transformation. Without that fracture, there is no reconstruction. Those who avoid pain remain stuck. Those who embrace it evolve. Carl Jung explained that the path to individuation begins when the ego is wounded enough to finally listen. You have two options: struggle and suffer for something meaningful, or stay comfortable and suffer the hollow weight of a life without purpose. Both hurt, but one builds and the other breaks. You decide which pain you carry, because carrying pain is inevitable. Choosing which one is your responsibility. Those who win choose the pain of growth. Those who lose hold the pain of regret. And let me tell you this directly. Regret weighs far more. It is a slow poison that eats you from the inside, whispering at night what you could have become. That is the real hell. Knowing you had the chance and let it slip away. Think of the people you admire, the ones who achieved something real, the ones who left a mark. Do you think they didn't face these battles? Every single one of them did. The difference is that they won more times than they lost. They were not perfect. They failed endlessly, but kept rising. That is the key. It's not about never falling. It's about getting up faster each time. Resilience is not resisting blows without reaction. It is rising again, knowing another blow will come. The weak stay on the ground, waiting for help. The strong rise alone, with broken bones and shattered pride, but they rise. And here is the part Jung insisted on. You already know all this. Knowing without acting is useless. Knowing and not doing becomes complicity with your own collapse. So stop waiting. The ones who build their lives do not wait for inspiration. They create momentum. They move, and movement creates the energy that makes more movement possible. It is an upward spiral, yet someone must take the first step, and that someone is you. Jung taught that every ascent begins with an inner confrontation, a decision made before the conscious mind understands what is happening. The first battle against the inner voice is won with a ruthless choice. Stop negotiating with the part of you that fears change. When that voice rises with its logical arguments, its fears disguised as caution, its resistance wrapped in familiar reasoning, ignore it. Jung taught that the psyche grows through tension, and that inner conflict is not a curse, but a doorway to a more integrated self, a reminder that what feels like pressure is often the beginning of genuine transformation. Do not debate, because it always wins. It is faster, sharper, and aware of your weakest points, for it has lived inside you since childhood. The only way to defeat it is to refuse its battlefield. Decide before it reacts. Commit yourself in an instant and move. That is the strategy. Those who overthink lose, those who act advance. Jung insisted that transformation begins not with perfect conditions, but with the courage to act amid uncertainty. Start where you are, with what you have, and let your effort carve the path as you walk. The second battle, the one against time, demands something severe. Removing everything that drains your energy, your distractions, toxic connections, destructive habits, everything that steals life from you without giving anything back. Be merciless. Your life is an overloaded vessel, and without casting off weight, you will sink. Many sink because they lack the courage to release what has outlived its purpose. They cling to dead friendships, to work that diminishes them, to routines that numb their potential. They fear letting go because they cannot imagine who they might become without those attachments. But here is the truth Jung repeated. You cannot know who you are until you release what you are not. Time is your most precious resource, yet you give it away to things that do not matter. Every second counts. Every minute is irreplaceable. Use your time as if it were gold, because it is. The third battle, the struggle against your own fragmentation, is the longest. It is not won in a day, but in 1,000 days. It requires discipline, a word many dislike because it sounds limiting. Yet discipline is not your enemy. It is your freedom. The undisciplined remain slaves to impulses, emotions, circumstances. The disciplined choose their path and walk it regardless of how they feel. Jung expressed this truth simply. Freedom appears when the self stops hiding from responsibility. When you command yourself, you command your life. When you cannot, life commands you. That is the difference. It is fought in small decisions, rising when the alarm rings, doing the work without motivation, keeping your word, even when no one is watching. These small victories build something greater than your present identity. Now comes the uncomfortable part. You must choose. You cannot read this, feel motivated for minutes, and return to your old life. That is emotional self-indulgence, the illusion of progress without substance. Many consume ideas that make them feel temporarily uplifted, but never change anything. If that is your intention, stop here and return to your comfortable mediocrity. But if you want change, if you are tired of the version of yourself you carry, then listen. Change begins now, not tomorrow. When this ends, do one thing, just one, that brings you closer to who you want to become. Not something grand, something small, but real. Tomorrow do another, and the next day, another. Build momentum, for momentum is your ally. An object in motion tends to remain in motion. Become that object. These 3 battles are not won through heroic gestures, but through consistency, through doing what you said you would do until it becomes your nature, until the inner voice loses power, until time becomes your servant, until the mediocre version of you fades into a distant memory. This is what separates those who rise from those who fall. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance, but the will to continue when everything inside wants to surrender. Viktor Frankl lived this truth and carried it into the written word: endurance. When we reach a point in life where we can no longer reshape the world around us, Carl Jung taught that we are brought face to face with a far greater challenge: the task of reshaping ourselves. And unlike those who are truly imprisoned in circumstances beyond their control, you are not trapped in a concentration camp. You are not enclosed by walls you cannot break. You carry within you a mind capable of reflection, a will capable of decision, and a spirit capable of transformation. You possess tools, opportunities, openings, and paths. You have no excuses left, only the fear you continue to obey. And fear holds no real authority except the authority you willingly surrender to it. That is why this moment, right now, becomes your moment of truth. You must choose whether you will continue living as the same fearful version of yourself, repeating the same reactions, the same doubts, the same paralysis, or whether you will finally decide to fight. And I will not lie to you. Choosing to fight will hurt. It will tear through the illusions you built to protect yourself. It will expose every wound you kept hidden. It will be brutal in ways that make you question your own strength. There will be days when you feel so exhausted that surrender seems like the only rational option. Days when the voice inside you, the one that whispers you are not good enough, will rise louder than ever and temporarily control your entire direction. Days when everything feels meaningless and empty. But these days are not failures. These are the initiations. They are the sacred thresholds every human being must cross. They are the defining moments that reveal who you actually are, beneath your fears, beneath your habits, beneath your excuses. Those who surrender during these moments return to their starting point. They circle endlessly, living the same year over and over, calling it a life. But those who persist, those who continue walking, even when the road becomes a personal hell, those individuals emerge on the other side, completely altered. And Carl Jung understood this path intimately. He knew that the road to inner paradise always leads first into the depths. There is no shortcut, no escape, no bypassing. You must walk through your own darkness if you want to reach the place where your soul is trying to guide you. And no one, absolutely no one, can walk that path in your place. The 3 inner battles are already waiting for you. The old voice is already whispering its familiar narrative. Time is already moving forward, and the old version of you is already resisting every step of progress you attempt to make. So decide now, fight or surrender. But whatever you choose, own it without looking back. Do not complain later. Do not blame your parents, your past, your circumstances, or any other person. If you lose, it is because at some level, consciously or unconsciously, you chose to lose. If you win, it is because you made the decision to fight when it mattered. Simple, brutal, real. And if you have made it all the way to this point in the video, it says something very important. You have already chosen. People who give up never reach the end. They quit halfway, drifting toward the next distraction, the next excuse, the next comfortable escape. But you stayed. You continued. That reveals something powerful about you, even if you cannot fully see it yet. Now, I need you to do one more thing. Something small, but symbolic. Something that seals the decision you just made. Subscribe to this channel and activate the bell. Not because I need it, because you do. You need reminders that shake you awake. You need these teachings appearing on your screen exactly at the moments when you are about to collapse, when the inner voice is gaining territory, when time is slipping through your fingers and mediocrity is quietly trying to reclaim your life. Every video is a strike against that mediocrity. And if you truly want to win these battles, you need that strike week after week. Now go to the comments and write exactly this. I choose to fight. 3 simple words. When you write them, you will see them. And when I see them, I will greet you personally. It is not a game. It is a public declaration of intention. It is a commitment that echoes beyond this moment. You are telling yourself, and everyone who sees it, that you decided to move, that you decided to rise, that you decided to confront your own shadow. And that declaration carries power. Spoken words disappear. Written words stay. They remain as evidence, as memory, as a promise you made to yourself. Do it. And if you know someone who is drowning in these same battles, someone trapped inside their own mind, imprisoned by their own mediocrity, share this video with them. Do not keep it only for yourself. Knowledge that is not shared eventually dies, but knowledge that is shared becomes a spark in someone else's darkness. And there may be someone out there who has been waiting for this exact message at this exact moment to finally awaken.